Hello, everyone. We're going to wait a few minutes until some others join us. I see people coming on now. Thank you. Okay, I think we'll go over the agenda at least here while we're waiting for the provost to show up.
I'm on. That's not.
Oh, you're there? Okay, so I couldn't see you. Okay, well, anyway, even while you're here, let's just putting the agenda up for a minute. And so we're very happy to have everybody here today for the United Faculty of Florida presentation on tenure and promotion that's co-sponsored by the Faculty Mentor Program, the Office to Advance Women Equity and Diversity, the Provost's Office, the Office of Faculty Leadership and Success. We're all here because we're very interested in your success. So I will turn it over now to our Provost and Vice President, Ken Furton.
Thank you, Susanna. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for participating in this, which is I believe our very first promotion workshop for teaching professors. And as you know, the objective of promotion is to recognize our outstanding faculty and who've excelled in teaching and service within our community and within the academy. And just wanted to let you know the Office of the Provost is here to support you. And the role that you play is probably more important than any other faculty on campus, in the sense that we're striving for top 50 in U.S. News and World Report, and that's primarily going to come from helping our students to be more successful. And most of you have dedicated most of your careers on coming up with new ways to help our students be successful. And the idea of this process is to not only give you a promotion track for for one step, but throughout your career. And so we're always looking for new ways to help evaluate the effectiveness of teaching and learning that you're doing, give you recognition for that through this promotion, future promotions. And I won't, take up a lot of the time. We just want to thank the United Faculty of Florida. I want to thank the Office to Advance Women Equity and Diversity, which led by Susanna Rose, and the Office of Faculty Leadership and Success, led by Kathleen Wilson, for organizing this workshop with the UFF. And I'm sure, unfortunately, I can't stay with you the whole time, which maybe is a good thing. You probably don't want me eavesdropping on everything, but just let you know that I think this is, of all the things that I've done, in 6 years as provost, one of the things that I said that was going to be the most difficult is recognizing and rewarding faculty for having improvements in their effectiveness of teaching and learning in the classroom. And many of you are demonstrating this or have demonstrated this. And so I'm very proud of what Susanna and what the Kathleen and what the union leadership has done working with the Office of the Provost to help advance. But we're happy to hear. I'm sure there's things that we're not doing that we need to do. So I just want to congratulate you for what all of you've done, and hopefully this workshop will be useful in helping you make sure that you're successful in going through the promotion workshop. So with that, I'll turn it back to Susanna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Provost Burton. So I am pleased to be here to represent the Office to Advance Women Equity and Diversity, and I thank the Provost for having helped allow this office to be created. I'm going to put up just a quick slide here of the activities of the office, just to remind people. I think everybody knows about AWED, as we call it, but let me try to get this. So I'm just putting this up because we have had a great response to all the workshops that we offer. Everything we do in the Office to Advance Women Equity and Diversity, or AWED, is aimed at providing faculty development opportunities for you. The Faculty Mentor Program and the Stride Hiring Workshops are the oldest programs that we offer. The Stride Diversity Advocate Program is new. Some of you have been through that, and I've been very pleased that a number of people that don't have to come to that have been signing up for the ones that we are starting to offer on a regular basis. We had a new Tenure and Promotion Workshop this year for faculty serving on college tenure and promotion committees, for the chairs and for the deans, to make sure that everybody is aligned with what Kathleen's office and the Provost's office want people to know about the tenure and promotion process. And then we're happy that 400 faculty have come to the Bystander Leadership Workshop. We're experimenting with that in a Zoom environment. But we also hope to get back to offering it face-to-face because it's a lot of fun. I just want to mention these workshops because we're going to send an email around tomorrow that will give you a schedule of these workshops, which you're welcome to sign up. They're now open. So you don't have to wait till you're on a search committee, or you don't have to wait until you're on the tenure promotion college committee. You can just join us and be ahead of the game in terms of knowing what the expectations are. So that's all I have to say for now, and I will be happy to introduce and let Kathleen Wilson, Vice Provost for Office of Faculty Leadership and Success, speak.
Thank you, Susanna. So I want to thank the Provost for his support of the faculty, for creating the Office to Advance Women Equity and Diversity, and for creating the Office of Faculty Leadership and Success. As among the things that I do, I'm the Provost designee in the tenure and promotion process. So the first thing I'm going to do is give you my phone number. And you may text me and request a phone call if you have a confusion or you need some help or something is going awry. you can reach out to me directly, and it's 305-323-1114. 305-323-1114. I am intimately involved with the entire process, and after a year of some really hard work and a number of people, and I think there were more eyes on the T&P manual this time than ever in the past. The faculty senate passed the new P&T manual in November. We will post that up on the website so that you can see the differences. We are still working with the union to decide whether we can implement it right away. But what I will tell you is what's really different about it is it just clarifies things and makes the process easier. It's all in one document. The non-tenure track guidelines, which would apply to all teaching professors, used to be in a separate document. Now we have folded it into one so you can go to one place and see it. We haven't made substantive changes to criteria. It's more the process. And here are some of the things that we've done. We've simplified and clarified the guidelines for you for promotion. We've added, and this is very important, and Susanna also mentioned it, we're already doing this, and it's going to help you a great deal. There is now required workshop training in the T&P process for chairs, deans, and the college committees. And I believe 150 people already took advantage of that this fall. This doesn't necessarily affect you, but one of the things we've clarified is that associate professors may come up for full when they feel they've met the criteria. So that's not really for you, but that is something we clarified. This does affect you. There aren't very many of you, but some of you serve as in administrative capacities, even though you're not tenured or tenure track, you still have the right to come up for promotion. There was some confusion about that. There were some deans who didn't believe that that was the case. We clarified that. If you're serving as chair, you may be promoted. Also, if you are in a center, you also have the right to be promoted. The provost has suggested that when possible, you should also have a home in a department. And then your process will go through the department process. But some of you may only be in a center, and your center directors now know that there needs to be a process for you because you're covered by the CBA and you have the right to come up for tenure. Let's see, what else do I want to let you know? All departments are required now by the end of this year to have very specific criteria by title and rank according to your discipline, so that you know exactly what it is you need to do to be promoted. Most of you are mostly just doing teaching. Some of you are also doing research. Some of you may be research professors. But in any case, whatever title and rank you have, you should know exactly what you need to do to be promoted to the next step. And to that point, every department is in the process of or has already gone through the evaluating teaching process so that you will have some documents that you can put in Panther 180. You will not be held harm in any way because of COVID. We have an MOU, but you can use that to highlight any successes or innovations that you've done in teaching. Use that process, put it in Panther 180, and then your chair is obligated to look at that and include that in the process. So I encourage you to be involved in that evaluating teaching project if you haven't already, and use it. And I also have some happy news. In addition to the Senate Teaching Awards, which Eric might tell you about. We also have permission from the provost's office to offer 20 teaching awards per year for $2,000. They don't go to base, but it's a $2,000 award for teaching. And again, you'll want to sort of collect some data from peers, self, and students to show some of the things that you're doing. I think I'll stop there, but I'm certainly available to answer questions. You can put them in the Q&A. If we don't get to them in this session, we will post them somewhere. So I will turn it back to Susanna.
I'm just going to turn it over to Priscilla Johnson from Academic Personnel to talk about her role in this process and that of her team.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Sorry. So I'm Priscilla Johnson. I'm Assistant Director in the Office of the Provost Planning and Finance. And I also want to introduce my colleagues, Marshall Maurice and Abilene Pinzone. So we manage the promotion process. I am your contact in terms of timelines and eligibility, and Marshall and Abby support Panther 180. So typically for the non-tenure track promotion process, that would begin in March. We would send a list out of the eligible faculty, encouraging them to get in touch with us if they want to apply. And then the profiles would be created and you can you would submit your application through Panther 180. I believe Eric may be going over that process just a little bit, so I won't say too much now. I'll turn it over to Marshall and Abby if they had anything else to add.
I just wanted to say hi to everybody. And no, Priscilla, I don't have anything additional to add. You hit it on the head on the nail, or the nail on the head. Sorry.
Thank you. Abby?
Hello, everyone. Excuse me. Just to let you know that if you have any questions, you need any support, doesn't matter the time of day, you could reach out to panther180@fiu.edu. And yes, and Marshall and I will be contacting you as soon as we get that. You know, screenshots, anything that would help us identify your issues, that would be helpful for us. So thank you and good luck.
Okay, I'll turn it back over to Susanna.
So now we have the feature presentation of the workshop by Eric Dwyer, who is the UFF Grievance Chair and former president. Eric, are you ready?
I think I'm ready. I have to share my screen, but I think I'm ready. Thank you so much. I think people can see this. Am I correct? Say yes. All right, here we go. My name is Eric Dwyer. I am the former president of UFF, as is Kathleen Wilson, I will not forget to say. And there are other UFF people who are on the executive committee who are attending today. So I'm really grateful to all of them. I'm grateful to the provost's office and to AWID for setting this all up. It's a really fun thing to do. And since it's a day after Groundhog Day, I thought I'd continue the celebration of the groundhog by offering some great comments about promotion. Doesn't that make sense? But anyway, UFF, the United Faculty of Florida, is the steward in carrying out the contracts for the university, and it's set up in agreement with the university and the state and of course the union. The union is over 100,000 faculty around the state, so it's an exciting aspect. And I don't mean just UFF, I mean National Education Association and all the K-12 folks throughout Florida. So it's quite a conglomeration. Our particular chapter is headed by the president, Martha Meyer, and you can see her email address here, martha.meyer@uff-fiu.org. She sends her greetings. The other document I want to point out to you is our collective bargaining agreement. And I'm going to refer to it quite a bit here in the next few minutes. The collective bargaining agreement is your contract, and it gets negotiated mostly every year. This year is a big year. We're actually looking at the entire contract. But people do chime in every year to tweak it here and there. But have a look. It's nice to know what your rights are with respect to work at FIU. It's also nice to know what your rights are not with respect to FIU. And we'll go into some of those nuances here in the next little bit. As you look through the CBA, I'll point toward a couple of places. Promotions are found on page 75. And of particular interest to you will be in information regarding assignment. And I'm going to ask you to pay attention to assignment and evaluations. The assignments are found on page 55. Now, what I'm doing now with the union is that I work with grievances, which means if you've got an issue that pertains to the contract or the way you feel that you're being treated on campus and you think there's a legality that needs to be handled, you can contact me at any time. And you can write me at eric.dwyer@uff-fiu.org. And like Kathleen, I'll also offer my telephone number. It is, I hope you have a pencil, 786-556-2591. And I'll give it again. 786-556-2591. And you can send me a text or give me a call, and that works just fine. Now, with respect to doing grievances, I need to point out that by law, I'm only allowed to address grievances in a legal manner if you are a member of the union. I can answer little itty bitty questions here and there, but as soon as it gets into the legalities, I'm precluded from doing that. But you can still inquire whether it's an okay thing to ask me. I don't mind answering that question. So please feel free to do that. And just on the off chance that you're interested, you can join UFF by going to join.uff-fiu.org, or you can contact our guru for handling such thing. That's Josh Popasek, and he's at that email address, josh.popasek@uff-fiu.org. All right. The final thing that I want to point out before I really get into this is the importance of a file. And the file that you put forward can happen in a number of ways. And Kathleen will probably have a lot to say about this. The easiest way to get promoted is to make your file readable. and if it's not readable, then there is actually a greater likelihood that there will be problems down the road. So let's see what we can do about making this all work. The word promotion is important to the CBA. How important is it? It's found 60 times within the CBA. So that's a lot. So we pretty much find that important. Something that will probably be important to you is why go up from a promotion apart from just the accolades and the intrinsic motivation. There's the extrinsic motivation of money. And on the first promotion, you would get a 12% raise. And on the second promotion, you would get a 14% raise. So those things become important to us as we consider whether we want to go up for promotion or not. Another aspect of importance is that of academic freedom. And I want to point this out because it comes up. The right to academic freedom is established not only through FIU, but through the American Association of University Professors, the AAUP. And we take this fairly seriously. You do have academic freedom with respect to what you put in your class and with respect to what you write about. But also academic freedom comes with responsibility. And the responsibility means to be truthful about what you do. And part of the contract that we have with FIU is that you are honest with respect to what you put into your file. Not being honest is a big deal, and it's handled fairly seriously. So I want to be sure that we're clear on both those aspects. Yes, you have quite a degree of academic freedom with what you do inside your class and with what you write or what you produce in research or any type of productive work. But you also have the responsibility to be honest about it. Now, what goes into your promotion? this is really interesting. By contract in 9.3 in the CBA, we see that your annual assignments and your annual performance evaluations are key to these issues. So those things highlighted in red right there. These others are important, but the ones I'm going to pay attention to today are annual assignments and performance evaluations. Before I start talking about assignments though, I want to point out that most of you, especially if you're new on campus, have an appointment. And the appointment is important because it sort of sets the stage for what you have to do. The letter of appointment is illustrated and has important information, so hang on to it because it sets the groundwork upon which anything else then changes. Now, change is likely to happen, and that happens with respect to a number of things. And one of the things that happens is that your work changes for some reason. And at any time that there is a change, that should be put in writing. So I would like people to get into the habit of trying to get things in writing, in emails, a contract letter, anything like that. Promises that are just happening in the course of the wind of conversation is not going to be sufficient, because if there's any issue down the road and we don't have it written down, then it's pretty much unaddressable. By doing so, you should receive an annual letter that it usually comes in, you have an appointment, and it also includes your salary. That should come right before you get your first paycheck generally. Sometimes there's a slight delay, it comes before the second one, but you should get that August to September. You should get those letters. All right, the appointments now for 9-month faculty run between August 12th to May 11th in this particular year. If you're on a 12-month assignment, that's not correct. It should say August 12th to August 11th. I'll try and make that fix when I send you the PowerPoint. But it's August 12th to August 11th in the 12-month. And for those of you who are interested, the summer is going to go from May the 12th to August 11th this year. All right. Oh, I did fix it. Okay, here we go. Then on next year, lo and behold, the days are the same, but there have been a number of changes made in schedules. So be sure you double check the Provost website on calendars and timelines, because especially in these days with the pandemic, changes come down from the governor's house and through the faculty senate and the board of trustees, and I don't know where all, but things change. So be sure you keep yourself up to date on those possible changes. All right, now I mentioned assignments are really important, right? Well, here we go. When do you get your assignment? This is why I wanted to point this out. Most of the heavy lifting that needs to be done with respect to assignments might happen while you are not on contract, meaning during the summer. That means even if you're not teaching or if you don't have an assignment in the summer, you still need to be up on your stuff with respect to what's going on in your contracts and in your work. Now, you should receive your assignment no later than 6 weeks in advance of its starting. Now, there is a little bit of wiggle room for administration there, and understandably so, because assignments are hard. But you should receive an initial idea that's written down of your assignment within 6 weeks of the beginning of the semester. And I'll show you those actual dates in a moment. The importance of that is that when it comes time for going up for promotion, your assignment is the first vehicle upon which we look at how well you are doing. You sign a contract to do your assignment. So that's what we go by. We don't go by extra stuff. We don't go by favors. We go by your assignment. When you think about that, when there is a change in your assignment, you want to mark that down and want to be sure that you're talking with your department chair or your director about what's going on. And when you have a slight change, and there probably will be changes, then you want to be sure that that's documented in an appropriate way, and you want to tackle it straight away. Now, there are stories where folks do not get an assignment in a timely manner. So if you're not getting your assignment in late June or early July, then actually I want to hear about it in the grievance office. All right. Of course, the first thing you want to do is contact your chair, because that'll be my first question. Have you contacted your chair? But if the answer is there's no action on your assignment at all, then I want to hear about it. All right. One aspect of the assignment that's sort of interesting is equitable opportunity. Some of the cautionary tales that we have with respect to promotions have to do with, well, it wasn't fair. These folks got more chances to teach these classes than I did, and I feel like I didn't get to show off what I'm really good at. Well, or some faculty got an overload and I didn't get an overload. Those types of questions are spongy at best, a kind of iffy, but I want to give you an idea of what we'll be looking for if you contact my office. We look at equitable opportunity. It doesn't mean that it has to be an equitable outcome. It just means that people have to be offered equitably over time. And that will be the issue that I'll try to address. It doesn't happen too much in NTT, but I want to point it out there that you do have you are supposed to have the opportunity to have access to good things across your career, as long as they're offered to everybody. All right. Now, your evaluation. When you look at the evaluations, see these on pages 61 to 67. The evaluation should come to you no more than 45 days at the end of the academic year. So our academic year, the reason why I put those dates up a little while ago, is May the 11th. So you've got till 45 days after that to expect an evaluation. Once you have that evaluation, you then have 30 days to respond to it, especially if you have a problem with it. Those 30 days, the clock on the 30 days starts the moment you get your evaluation. All right? By contract, it's not that it's 30 days after the deadline, it's 30 days after you get your eval, is what the clock is. So once again, this happens probably while you're not on contract. Thus, after you get your evaluation, if you have an issue, contact your chair. If there's no resolution, then you can contact me to deal with it. All right, in that evaluation, presumably it's signed and dated. We still have the ideas of signed and dated, but this is all done through Panther 180. Priscilla can talk to you about what the ins and outs are of signing and dating, but it'll be done electronically. Those count in this case. You have copies, and you can always request a meeting with an administrator at the next highest level. So let's say that you talk with the chair and you don't get anywhere, you can go to the next highest person, a senior associate dean, to the dean, and onward up to the provost's office. But those are your rights under the contract. Here now are those deadlines I promised you. The evaluations should be sent to you coming up by Friday, June the 25th. And if you're on a 12-month contract, Saturday, September 25th. You see a theme now with the numbers, don't you? The evaluations must be responded to by you no later than July the 25th, providing once again that 30-day caveat. A lot of these evaluations do come at the last minute. So I'm fairly comfortable with the July 25th, and we can always work with the provost's office to see if those dates can be honored. In the last couple of years, let's see, Kathleen's on. In the last couple of years, we've had some issues where we've need to fiddle with those dates. Isn't that right, Kathleen? She's muted, but she's nodding.
I'm so sorry, I forgot I was muted. Yes, we honor the contract, but you know, we work with individuals when there's something we need to address. Yes.
Yeah. So we've had really good relationships with dealing with those dates, but those are pretty much the dates. And we try not to be mean with respect to that. So far, so good. With 12-month faculty, your evaluations should be responded to here by late October. The assignments should be to you, and this is probably much more important. At least right now, the plan is by Tuesday, June the 29th. Now, the last 2 years, that has been extended by a little more than a week. This last year with COVID, it got way extended, and we'll let you know if that is necessary again. I like it when an assignment comes out and is there for faculty, even if it's not perfect. The reason why I like that is because the administration has lots and lots of leeway with respect to changing assignments. The contract asks them to do it in a timely fashion. I understand that. When practicable is also in the contract. Therefore, it is not unusual for folks to get late assignment changes. Now, what we hope for is positive relationships between faculty and administration so that those manipulations that come at the late stage, say right before the beginning of the semester, still make sense and are still logical and feasible for the teachers. We don't like it when teachers are rushing around at the last minute. But we certainly understand why classes get canceled, people have accidents, lots of stuff happens. And so there's a lot of leeway for administration to make changes, and we have to be as flexible as we can be. However, you still have the right under the contract to have a really good idea of what you're going to do during the year. And most importantly, with respect to promotion, you want those things written down so that you can refer to them through the entire course of the career that you have before you go up for promotion. The evaluation file, and you have procedures in 9.5. You have the right to attach a brief and concise response to any of the materials. And this includes indeed any letters that come your way. During the process, so Priscilla may go over this in a second, but during the process, you put together your file on Panther 180, and then you hit the send button with all your good stuff showing how wonderful you are. It goes through the process. You are being evaluated by colleagues, the department chair, the dean, the provost's office. At any point that they put an evaluation of, or an assessment, or a contemplation of your work into your file, you have 5 days to respond to it. Now that's a short window, especially if you're not pleased about it. I'm going to ask you to please pay attention to it, and even if it doesn't go your way and you're emotional about it, say something. And the reason why you want to say something is because that 5-day will go away, and Panther 180 is set up so it goes away. So if you want your opportunity to say something with respect to how an outcome is, then you want to make certain that you get within those 5 days. Now, here's another thing I want to recommend that people try out, and that is an assignment chart. The assignment chart is important to me because you get evaluated on your assignment. Now, let's say that you're a teaching professor. The assignment chart I've got here is for a teaching professor. And it's sort of where you start, where you might have a 90% teaching assignment and a 10% service allocation. If you're a research professor, it will be different. If you're a clinical professor, it'll be different than this. But here I have a teaching professor example. And this is sort of the general idea. So 4 courses will count as a 90% teaching allocation. So if you're only teaching 2 courses, it'd be 45. So you want to do the math based on the 90-10. Now let's say, you know what? I like being a teaching professor, but I want to do a little bit of research. And you go up to your chair and he's like, you know what? I'm good at doing some research. And the chair agrees. And the chair sees that there is space for you to do research, and that the teaching that you would ordinarily not do can be covered in such a way. let's say that that agreement occurs, say in your 4th year, and you find that you can take off a class or two, let's say to the degree that you have a 33% research assignment. You want that to be covered in your chart so that people know what you are doing. Because if that's what you're doing, you end up being evaluated on it. All right. Now, what that ends up doing is it keeps the conversations going between you and your chair all the time. For example, you might get a mid-year request by a chair. Can you join a new committee? Or I need you to change your teaching assignment so we can accommodate a number of students. This is a time when you can ask your chair, how does this affect my service allocation? How does it affect my teaching allocation? And how does it affect my research allocation? Those are all important questions to make. The reason why is because the answers to those questions affect how you will be evaluated at promotion time. All right, so here are the UFF positions on these ideas. One is that assignments are mostly the purview of the administration. 2, allocations are to be aligned with UNIT's differentiated assignment policy. DAP, differentiated assignment policy. So I'm now introducing a new document that I want you to become really familiar with and very conversational about. And that is your department's differentiated assignment policy. This has to do often with respect to teaching, how much allocation you get with respect to the number of students are in your class. And this is different from department to department, unit to unit. Let's say that your department says, all right, if you have a 3-credit class and you have 50 students, then that counts as 1. But then between 51 and 75 students, that counts as 1.5. That should be reflected in your differentiated assignment policy. You want to become very aware and understanding of what your particular differentiated assignment policy is. The other thing I want to point out that's important to you is that faculty have yearly assignments. What does this mean? Here is a cautionary tale. Every now and then, the chair may say, oh, the enrollments of your class are too low and I need to cancel your class. What I want to caution against is this. The chair says, don't worry about it. Just continue on as you are. You can add on a class next year. The union's position is no. You have a yearly assignment, so therefore go back to your chart and readjust. In other words, you don't teach an overload for free the following year because the following year is a different year. But that's the union's position. So we don't rob Peter to pay Paul. And that has happened in the past. And I want to caution against folks because what ends up happening is that a person then has an overload and then they don't manage to make the promises that they kept earlier. And then the profs are then penalized for it because of they're not doing the work that they said. But the argument will be, well, you had that extra time the year before. But the assignment wasn't changed, so the reflection in your chart isn't there. So be sure you reflect those charts, and I'm going to caution people against the idea of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Let's say that happened in the midterm change in service. In the middle of your, that would be a 45-45-10. This is an example here. Let me see if I'm fine. Okay, let's do this. Let's say in the middle of the time on your chart, it goes 00, 57, 00. So in the 21-22 year, in this particular example, I hope this is making sense. Let's say in this particular example, you go to your chair and say, I have an opportunity to do research and I'd like to do it and put it in my assignment. And the chair agrees. So he's like, yay. Okay, so you put that into your chart. It only happens for that year. Look at the bottom where it says averages. So over time, your averages are 11.4 for research, 78.6 for teaching, and 10 for service. This becomes important because then in your synopsis at the end of while you're doing a promotion file, you can indicate the degree to which research was a key part of your work. Therefore, you're not judged completely against somebody that's on a 4-4 load every single year. Your teaching should be judged ever so slightly differently because there was that one year when you didn't have quite as much. So it gives the evaluator and your colleagues who evaluate your file, and then even those in the provost's office, presumably, an opportunity to say, okay, we're going to look at this with a little extra salt because we've got something to figure out here. All right, let me see. And you have to make certain that it's right. Make certain you got your numbers right. All right, I did cautionary tales. I think that's what, another thing that I think you can put on your chart is something that, let's say that this past year you were affected adversely by COVID. I think I would indicate that in your charts and any documentation that you have. As Kathleen appropriately said earlier in the MOU, we are to be found harmless with respect to aspects of our job when they are adversely affected by COVID. And I think you want to put that information into the chart and into your file to show that it is indeed an issue for us to reflect on and understand. All right, that's what I've got. I'm happy to take questions, but I'll leave it there. And I'm sure that I've left a number of openings. I probably made you create more questions than answers I have answered, but I'm happy to deal with it as best I can. Thank you very much for paying attention to me and giving me a chance to chat with you a little bit.
Susanna, may I answer some of the questions in the chat? Some of them might go to Eric, but
Well,
I can.
We had the 2 other speakers that were going to come on briefly, and then
Okay.
the rest would be Q&A. And
Right.
there, I guess, Agatha, are you on? They might not be here. So
Yes, I'm here.
is that okay, Kathleen? Because I'm afraid they won't get a chance to speak.
Sure, I just want to make sure, because some of them, I think everyone needs to hear because it would affect everyone, but I can wait.
Well,
Sure.
these are, yeah, there's a lot of questions in the Q&A that I hope you can answer. So we have a short interlude here to hear some first-person accounts. We heard all the technical aspects from Eric and some of the problems that arise, but we always like to have 1 or 2 people speak about what the experience was like with them. And I think this also might bring up issues that would be addressed in the Q&A. And the 2 speakers we have right now that are going to talk just for a few minutes each about what it was like are Agatha Caraballo, Associate Teaching Professor of Public Policy and Administration, and Melissa Howard, Clinical Associate Professor, Health Promotion and Disease Prevention. They were just recently promoted, and we're very happy to have them here to give us a benefit of their insight. So I think, Eric, you're still sharing your screen. Okay, and Agatha, are you, if you unmute and start speaking, you'll be featured.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be joined with everyone this morning and to share my experience going through the promotion process. When I had gotten this invitation, I actually went back to go review my file again, just to kind of refresh my memory and my promotion letter. And it's funny because my actual promotion says I was promoted to senior instructor, and that was before the change for associate teaching professor. And now as I'm helping some of my colleagues as well put together their promotion packets, I kind of reflect on my strategy on how I collected information. The one big advice that I will get is create a file now to start, putting all of those annual appointment notices that you receive in the email, saving all of your syllabi, because again, in my case, for a couple of years, I had to go digging back through Canvas to pull syllabus. So pulling all that information, putting it into a file, and then uploading it into Panther 180 as soon as possible. Do it as you go along. If you make a habit of it, either on a semester or annual basis, it'll avoid kind of that going back and digging up a lot of information. I was part of the evaluating teaching project for our department last year. So I really want to applaud that effort as far as for kind of clarifying how the expectations for non-tenure track faculty differ and ways to demonstrate our teaching, innovation, and our service. One thing that I had gotten into the habit of is beyond just the spots, getting into the habit of asking for individual feedback from my students outside of spots so that I could, collect some information. And now that I'm now serving in the role of director of teaching for the Black Faculty Association, I want to just put that out there as that, and offer myself as a resource to work with anybody for peer evaluations, ideas on how to collect student evaluations, and also just for your own self evaluations as we put that together. As we think about the, again, 360 evaluation, obviously there's the the traditional student evaluations, again, our spots and pulling those and the other evidence through our annual evaluations. But again, keeping those emails, those nice little notes from students that maybe highlight the impact that you've had. In my case, I also did a lot of service. So service within my department, service within the school, service within the university, and more importantly, service out in the community. So I tried my best to, again, document everything, every speaking engagement, every conference, every symposium, every summit that I had a hand in organizing, and collecting that evidence of my engagement and my service. And then again, just partnering with my peers, reaching out to my colleagues and asking them for feedback, asking them for suggestions, reaching out to my chair, and again, asking for his feedback as well, as much as possible. So one thing I will say is, again, since I don't have a research agenda, one thing that did come up in my evaluation is there was a comment made about my lack of research. And I did have to point out that that was not a basis that I was being evaluated on. And even though I was very active in other creative and scholarly activities, that wasn't something that I felt should be mentioned or even brought up because, again, it wasn't the basis of my evaluation. I guess in that sense, I did, again, just want to put myself out there to as a resource to anyone that, again, has questions or would like to meet individually. Again, because I think one thing is that, obviously having these workshops and getting information, but I also encourage you to find small groups, small support networks for individual support, working one-on-one. Academia, as we know, again, it's a very, especially when it comes to teaching, it can be very solitary at times. So find your support network, connect with peers. One thing that I, interestingly enough, can appreciate out of the pandemic and going on Zoom is that it's invited me into other spaces that I might not have otherwise traditionally have been due to time and space constraints. So I definitely encourage you to reach out. I definitely endorse the faculty mentorship program. It has been an amazing opportunity for me. I'm so grateful for my mentors and to now be an opportunity to serve as a mentor.
Thank you so much, Agatha. Well, I hope you enjoy your new status. And now Melissa Howard is invited to say a little bit about her experience on the clinical faculty track. Welcome,
Hi.
Melissa.
Thank you, Dr. Rose. As Dr. Rose mentions, my name is Melissa Howard. I was recently promoted to the clinical associate professor rank in the Department of Health Promotion and Disease Prevention. When Dr. Rose asked me to join you today, I thought, gosh, I've had a really long and windy road to promotion. So maybe this doesn't apply to all, but then I thought maybe it would be useful to some folks who feel they might not fit that mold. I saw a lot of questions come up as to, what if I don't have a 4-4 teaching load? What if I have research, but it's not necessarily in my contract? So I think I represent some of those questions, and I'm happy to answer them in detail if anyone has a specific question for me. So I was hired in 2009 as a clinical assistant professor on a 4-4 teaching load and to maintain our practicum program in public health. Within a year, I had my first child. And then a year after that, I was transferred into an administrative role as an assistant dean. And I served in that role for a couple of years and then had another child. So I felt like maybe maternity leave was a good idea at that point, having 2 children under 2. So I did take a pause, and that was supported by my administration, and I was very appreciative of that. But when I returned in 2012, I came back with renewed energy and a focus on both teaching and research. I actually began to collaborate with some colleagues in the Community-Based Research Center, and now the Research Center in Minority Institutions, which is led by Dr. Eric Wagner. And by 2015, I was a co-investigator on 3 federally funded grants, 2 by SAMHSA and 1 by HRSA. And now I'm actually the PI on a HRSA Maternal and Child Health Bureau funded training grant that will last 5 additional years. So I think in the last 5 years, I've successfully been able to tie funded research projects with community-based practice and also training programs, which really fit the mold for what a clinical faculty member is supposed to do. So I think that really assisted me in kind of laying that foundation for the clinical promotion. But I think my objective is to give you some tips and tricks for the promotion process. And I couldn't agree more with Dr. Caraballo. She was talking about collecting and reporting data, with respect to your syllabi and any conferences that you participate in or consortia that you participate in. That's a very good idea. And we're very lucky. We were the first cohort to submit our package completely electronically. I've considered that a very fortunate event because this was a difficult process, I think, when people were doing things in hard copy. But I think one thing, and I'm actually part of Dr. Rose's mentorship group this semester. And when I talk to my mentee, I always tell her, because she's actually a very humble person, I can tell that from her. And I said, this is not the time to be humble. You need to not be afraid of collecting and recording data on yourself and your achievements, because that's really going to be essential to putting together a good comprehensive promotion package. I also found that it was really helpful for me to take the concept of community engaged teaching and learning to heart. I found a lot of success tying my teaching, research, and service together. Just as one of the examples, I collaborate with the Healthy Start Coalition of Miami-Dade, which is our county's premier prenatal and infant care coalition. I serve on their community advisory board, but I also have their CEO and other staff guest lecture in my classes. So that really brings the community into the classroom. And I also place my students within the agency for their internships. And then finally, I have a data sharing agreement with the organization. So I really kind of come full circle with teaching, research, practice, and service with that single organization. And I do with some other organizations as well. Another thing that I was thinking that has really been important for me is collaboration with colleagues. I collaborate both with colleagues inside and outside of my department, and I in fact have a collaboration with a colleague in another institution who I happen to go to graduate school with. So, and the collaborations don't just have to be on research, they can be very beneficial for teaching and practice as well. And then I think Dr. Caraballo also mentioned service. So service to your college, service to the university. And I know that many of us, sorry, I have some kids in the background. I know that many of us are voluntold to do service sometimes, but I think in addition to those voluntold situations, it's really important to find service opportunities that really stimulate you and engage you. And so that's really where you're going to derive a lot of your enjoyment and affinity for the college, or the university. So that's all I have now, but I'm more than happy to answer those questions about that atypical looking person, which I think I am. So thanks, Dr. Rose.
Well, thank you so much for telling us your story. It really is, there's a lot of variety here at FIU, and I don't think that people get to share it very frequently. So now we will go back to the question and answer. And Kathleen, why don't you be the lead on that. And there's a lot of questions in the Q&A section that I think would be best addressed by you or Eric. So
Yeah, and I just sent Eric a text. I think he and I can almost have a dialogue because many of them will both weigh in. Let me start. I'm going to go more or less in order. What does it mean if you're out of unit? Just because you don't pay your dues, which we think might be a good idea. I still pay mine even though I'm out of unit, but that's up to you. Doesn't mean you're out of unit. You're welcome. Out of unit means if you are in the College of Law, the College of Medicine, or have an administrative appointment that's 80% administration, or you supervise someone else covered by the CBA. Otherwise, the CBA applies to you. So, yeah, and Eric, you're just gonna jump in. So the next one is, go ahead.
No, you.
Okay,
You
thanks.
I would.
Thanks. And then, yeah, Eric and I have worked very closely together for a number of years. So it's rare that we don't talk on a almost weekly basis. But anyway, the other question was, how do I find out about the Evaluating Teaching Project? That's something that the provost started with the former vice provost several years ago in conjunction with the Center for the Advancement of Teaching. So you can go to cat.fiu.edu, or you can call over there and talk to either Leanne Wells, who's the senior director, or Shanera Perez, who's the assistant director for academic support services. Their number is 305-348-4214, but that's CAT, Center for the Advancement of Teaching. Let's see. Then we had a question, maybe I'll give this one to you, Eric.
Okay.
What if you're a 12-month appointment and you're a research faculty, but you get your evaluation in May? Eric, do you want to take that one?
You're 12-month faculty and you get your evaluation in May?
But they're in a center, I believe.
Oh, they're in a center. Well, in a center, well,
I know, it's a hard one.
That is a hard one. So effectively, you got your evaluation 3 months early. I guess that's a good thing, but we would not expect you to have that evaluation until October. But I think we can handle it, but it also means that your evaluation for the summer is not included. So you're 3 months premature on that particular aspect.
As long as what you do is covered at some point, and I think the really important thing is that you're getting an evaluation, because we've had some bumps where people haven't received their evaluations at all. So, but that's far less common, I'm happy to say.
Yeah, no, this is a good problem, and usually we have the opposite problem, which is there's no evaluation, and we don't learn that there's no evaluation years down the road. And I guess this is the point where I can say, please be on top of this at the time. If you don't have an evaluation, then you want to grieve it, or at least inquire into grievance, because there's this wonderful animal called the 45-day rule that's in the contract. And that means after 45 days, it's a done deal. It's basically unaddressable as far as the union's concerned. And legally, we cannot address it, even if it's wrong. And so, and we have had to, have some wonderful little pity parties because we've missed the 45 days. It doesn't mean that somebody's wrong. It just means that we can't address it.
So I recommend that you download the CBA and put it on your computer and read it when you have insomnia. Another
that
question is
a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing is does the yearly appointment notice include a length of appointment? I might even send that one to Priscilla if you're still on. Priscilla? You still there? Maybe not. I'm not, if generally it's just for the academic year. It doesn't talk about the fact that you have 3 more years on your contract. So if that was the question, oh, there's Priscilla.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Somebody wanted to know, in the annual letter that they get every year that sort of serves as their contract, is there a length of appointment in that letter?
So that's 2 separate things. The annual notice of length of appointment and salary comes from the provost office, and that's the communication that we send out with regards to your start date and end date, whether you're 9-month or 12-month, and your salary for the academic year. The what I believe they're referring to is probably the assignment letter, which would come from their chair, which would outline what they're going to do for that academic year in terms of like research, teaching, and service. And it's usually given annually, so it can change from year to year.
I think the question was, does it discuss length of appointment in the letter? And the answer is no, that's in your original contract. But generally speaking, especially if you're non-tenure track, but I think Eric might want to weigh in on this because this is something that we bargained last year. Your length of appointment is 1 year, but and this also addresses a question that somebody else said, when you're promoted, do you have some kind of tenure? Eric, do you want to talk about what we negotiated about how if you get satisfactory so many years in a row, then you get, it's kind of a 3-year rolling contract for non-tenure track. Do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah. For a non-tenure track, you're essentially on a 1-year contract, but if you have a positive evaluation, it's going to roll over. And so that's the negotiation. So it used to be, so I think the easiest way to answer the question is how it used to be. And that is based on the amount of time that you had at FIU, FIU could issue you a letter saying you are not going to be employed anymore after such and such a date. This new contract now precludes that a little bit. It says if you get a satisfactory evaluation, then your job rolls over and continues. So you cannot receive such a letter like that anymore. Did I answer that adequately, Kathleen?
Yeah, I think so. But the good news here at FIU is non-tenure tracks still have some rarely, I mean, many non-tenure track people have been on the faculty for 30 years. It's not really an issue here at FIU, but now it's actually in the contract that it's essentially rolling over as long as you continue to get good evaluations.
Right. And so it is your obligation to do good work. And if you get a negative outcome in your evaluation, then you have you
have a year to address it.
And then also you don't want 3 out of 5. You don't want 3 bad evaluations out of 5, and then the university can issue you that not so nice letter.
Thank you. So let's see, what happens if your annual assignment does not reflect what you've actually been doing? It's very important that your annual assignment reflect what you're doing, because that is what your evaluation is based on, and that is what your promotion is going to be based on. So your chair or director can make adjustments in Panther 180 and should do that immediately. So you as a faculty member, I believe this is a research faculty who's bought out some teaching, your annual assignment should reflect what you're actually doing. And your chair or director, we're using those interchangeably, center director, sometimes director of a school, but functioning as chair, can open up Panther 180 and make that adjustment. So you might want to have a chat with your chair about making sure that's reflective of what you're actually doing. And and if it gets to be a real problem, then you're going to call Eric.
That's true. And in the contract, it says that what you're doing should be accurately reflected in your documentation. So it's okay to go back in there and make certain that we're accurate.
Yeah. So there are a couple of questions about what if I'm a non-tenure track faculty member and I'm doing research, but it's not in my load. Should I count that as unpaid labor? So I think Eric explained rather well, I thought, that how a differentiated assignment policy works. Every department should now have one, but it doesn't, that's not that was a heavy lift, but it's not a guarantee that you can go to your chair and say, I want 50% research. It's because your chair does make the assignment. If, to Eric's point, your courses can be covered and your chair wants to support you and you have that negotiation about how much, then that's reflected in your annual assignment. If you're doing a 4-4 and you choose to do research, that's not going to be in your annual assignment, in your annual evaluation. And that's on you. If you choose to do it, that's great. Now, what I will say is that in your promotion documents, you might say, even though this wasn't in my annual assignment, I did all this extra really fantastic, wonderful stuff. So that's where you would put it, but no, you're not going to be paid for it. And it's not a right. You have to sort of work that out with your chair. Do you want to say more about that, Eric?
Yeah, it's not an instead of. You don't have the option to do this instead of and then have FIU come back and say, oh, how wonderful you are. That would not be actually contractually a reasonable expectation. Ethically and morally, you might have a bit of an argument, but that needs to be an agreement between you and your chair in the university first. Right now, as described, that is just gravy. And so Kathleen is correct in the terms of what we would say if you were to ask me later during promotion time, how does this count? I said, it counts as gravy. Go ahead and report gravy, but it's not a part of your assignment. The only way to have it reported and evaluated is to get it into your assignment. Now, I do think there are some folks who do extra research so that they then show off to their department chairs, hey, look, I do good research. Might it be a good idea if I put this into my assignment and make this a regular feature of what I do at FIU? I think there are people who do that.
Yeah. And to Dr. Carvalho's point, you cannot be dinged for not doing research if it's not in your assignment. But you can certainly add it if you're doing it. And most people are doing some because we enjoy it, but that's an aside. So there's another question. What if I have an administrative responsibility? How does that show up in my annual assignment? There is some confusion about that, and Eric will want to weigh in. I would say that you would put that in as service. So you might have 50% service if you have an administrative appointment, and 30% teaching and 20% research, or 50%, whatever. But the way that's evaluated is sometimes in some colleges, it's a separate evaluation for that admin piece, but that should still be reflected, and those percentages need to add up in your final evaluation. Would you?
Yeah, I've seen both. I've seen people count it as service, and I've also seen a separate column made specifically for administrative work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. And I see Melissa just responded to that. Okay, let's see. A question. if I'm an assistant teaching professor, can I convert to an assistant professor on tenure track? Not necessarily. The question is with permission of the provost. Here's how that works. Your chair and dean have to request of the provost to add a tenure track position in your department. And that's often a budget thing, but, and then there has to be a search for that position. You don't just get converted from assistant teaching professor to tenure. So you would, and we just happens fairly often here that somebody who's been on non-tenure track applies for a new tenure track position that's open, and they get the position. But it's not an automatic conversion. Anybody just jump in if you need to add more or correct me. So Panther 180, Priscilla and Abby, this one's going to you, so heads up. When and how do I upload my documents? Because Dr. Caraballo suggested, I think it was Dr. Caraballo, add them as you go along so you don't forget. Do I have to upload them again when I go through tenure? Priscilla or Abby, do you want to take that? How does the process work? How do they upload things to Panther 180, and when and why?
So I'll touch on that briefly. The schedule for non-tenure track is not up yet. Like I said, we'll probably be emailing the eligible faculty in March, but I can show you kind of what that would look like based on last year's schedule. And then I can direct you to some resources for Panther 180, because we have trainings and some tutorials that will help you through submitting your application. And there's also certain parts of your application that if they're already in Panther 180, it'll automatically pull into your application for promotion. For example, as the question asked, if you've already uploaded your evaluations or any supporting documentation to a previous evaluation, then it pulls in all of your evaluations that were done in Panther 180. Anything that was done before, like on paper, you would need to upload into the evaluations or supporting information section. So let me just briefly show you the schedule. So are you able to see my screen? I believe this is one of the resources available in Eric's presentation, but this is the Academic Affairs website where we have all the faculty resources and links. So if you scroll down, you'll notice there's some links here for tenure promotion in reference to this webinar. The non-tenure track promotion schedules are here, as well as the guidelines for submitting your application. So just to give you an idea of what the schedule will look like based on last year. So we sent out the notices in March, and then you can have a discussion with your chair, and then the chair would email Panther 180 the list of all the faculty in their department that is going to go up, that is interested in going up for promotion. And then the applicants typically have from the beginning of May through the end of August to submit their file, and then the review process continues through the end of fall, and then you should get the final response to whether your promotion was approved or denied from the provost for this particular cycle in March of this year, which will be March of next year. In terms of each response that's submitted, each evaluation from the chair, from the department, as you can see here, the department committee reviews it first, and then the department chair, then the dean, and then the provost. So you have the opportunity to submit a response to every evaluation that's submitted. You have 5 days. The system will alert you as to when something is submitted, and then you have a 5-day response period where you can submit a rebuttal. And the rebuttal doesn't have to be in response to a negative, a denial or something like that. It can just be a clarification that you can submit to say, maybe the evaluation said you submitted, you published 5 papers when it was actually 6, or just, it can be a clarification. It doesn't have to be a rebuttal per se, but you do have that opportunity at each stage up until the provost, which is the final decision. For non-tenure track promotions, you can if you're not successful, you can always reapply the following year or any subsequent years. There is no negative impact if you are not successful in your first attempt. As far as resources, and Abby or Marshall, you can jump in here if you have anything to add. So this is the Panther 180 webpage. It's panther180.fiu.edu. I'm hoping, or most of you are familiar with it from submitting evaluations and things like that. There's a support and training link here. If you click on it, you will see all of the tutorials that we have available. We have a training manual that goes through using Panther 180 and general questions that you may have. We also have pre-COVID, we would have in-person trainings. I think we will be continuing virtual once the cycle starts in March. So look out for an email or any further communications regarding that. So you'll notice there's a tutorial here about submitting your non-tenure track file. And it's a step-by-step guide with instructions and some screenshots. That's pretty comprehensive. And again, you can always contact panther180@fiu.edu if you have any additional questions, or if you have any trouble accessing the system. And just to reiterate what I said before, we will contact those faculty that are eligible. However, in order to apply, you need to contact Panther 180 so we can create the profile for you. Let me see if there's anything in terms of what the application looks like, since that was another question. So you'll notice here that once your profile is created, you'll see an action item on your dashboard once you log in. To click on that, and it'll pull up the application. And like I mentioned before, you'll see all the normal sections that are there that you enter on a regular basis. Courses taught, it will pull in all of your courses. It'll pull in any scholarly publications and activities for the time period, and then it'll ask you to update anything that's already pulled in. So this is something for the particular faculty member. They were on the faculty development committee from fall 2012. It's a continuing appointment. And so you'd have the opportunity to either update and add an end date for that, or you'd leave it as ongoing. So it's really to your benefit, as Dr. Caraballo mentioned, to enter things as they come up. So by the time you come up for promotion, everything that you've already entered will already be pulled up. Now, these things, the contributed letters of evaluation, are where you would put those, any recommendations from colleagues or any recommendations from colleagues at FIU or anybody that you've worked with outside of FIU, you could add those there. So I won't go through everything because, like I said, we have individual trainings available, but I just wanted to show you a quick snapshot.
Thank you, Priscilla. And we all know it. We all love Pent 180. It's it's confusing, but it is getting better every year. So this was a quick question. It's easy to answer. When we're referring to chair, is that department chair or program chair? That's your department chair. Now, sometimes that person is called a director, like in my department, it's a school of music and the chair is called a director. So it's the chair or whoever is in that role, not your program chair, the chair of the department. Then there was a question, can I upload student comments? Can I share? Is that a FERPA violation? I would say yes, you can, but you may not include any personal information like their phone number, their Panther ID, or even their email, but you could certainly include their comments. I would probably keep them anonymous student comments. Okay, let's see, that was kind of a legal thing. Should I add things like certificates that I received during the year? Absolutely. Add anything that enhances your teaching or research or service, or anything that contributes to your faculty development. Absolutely, add it. As Eric is nodding, that's what he would call gravy. Yes, add everything. And to Dr. Carvalho's point, you will forget. I can't even remember what I did in 1 year, let alone 6 years ago. So keep a running, list of everything you're doing and upload it when you have time to do it. So somebody said, I publish regularly, including I just published a book, but I don't have research in my assignment. Should I add that? Absolutely, you should add that you did that. But I would encourage you to have a discussion with your chair about adding a research component to your load. Because if you have a track record of doing research, so I would encourage you to have that conversation with your chair and add it in any case.
Yeah, I want to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
The university, one of the things that I'm really pleased about with the university, it has been very encouraging for folks to be good at what they're good at and adjusting accordingly. Now, there are logistics that keep people teaching more than they want to in some cases. I understand that, and there are really good reasons for that. But I have really rarely encountered an occasion where someone says, no, I'm not going to consider that, because there really is a penchant for making certain that people place their talents in appropriate places. I think that is an orientation that the university generally has. Would you say that, Kathleen?
Yes, and the provost made up my title, which is Faculty Leadership and Success. We want every single faculty member to be successful. You are here because you're good at what you do, or you wouldn't be here. So we want to give you every kind of support you need to continue being successful. And to Eric's point, yeah, lead with your strength. Even, not that this impacts you, but even tenured faculty members who almost always have research in their assignment, maybe it comes to the point where they don't want to do anymore. They can have a conversation with their chair about, I want to do 4-4 load teaching, even though I'm tenured. So we do that on an individual basis. We encourage you to have an ongoing conversation with your chair. You can always reach out to me or to Eric.
Yeah, it's not to say it's not a Rubik's Cube for the chair to figure out, but I rarely find chairs who are not willing to try.
Right. We have good chairs too, and we're giving them as much support as possible because it's a hard job. this question's a little bit out of order, but it goes with what we're talking about right now. I don't have a mentor. Could I get someone to look at my file? Absolutely. I personally think everybody should have a mentor. I think use the mentor program that Susanna runs out of her office, which is excellent. She will assign you a mentor. My personal belief is you should have someone in your department that you can ask sort of basic questions. You should have someone out of your department at the university. That's best practices. And you should have at least somebody in your field, not at the university. Use your mentors. As a mentor, I am very flattered when someone asks me. If I don't have time, I'll tell them, but I don't think I've ever told anyone I couldn't mentor them. So have one, be one, use one, reach out to Susanna. One of the things they can absolutely do is look at your file and give you some suggestions. So backing up here, my letter says I'm not tenure eligible. It's a permanent position. That does not mean that you have a lifetime appointment. That means that it is the expectation that this is an ongoing permanent position as long as you continue to get satisfactory evaluations. So, but pretty much everybody's at will, including tenured faculty. It's just that the bar is higher for the administration. It has to be for you know, something egregious or broke the law or whatever, but there's no one who has a lifetime position. So let's see. Oh, so these next questions have to do with research faculty. How do I get on the list? How and when? And when do I? So we're still working this out at the university. Our office, working with the union, has sort of taken this on. It's addressed in the new tenure and promotion manual that all faculty, all full-time faculty, in-unit faculty, in other words, not in law and medicine, have the right to come up for promotion on a regular basis. And it's every so when you're on the faculty for 6 years, you have a right to come up for associate, and then you have a right to come up for teaching professor or research professor or clinical professor, whatever it is. So I think that Panther 180 is still kind of working that out, because in the past it was left to the colleges. We didn't think that was fair. We noticed some people were falling through the cracks, had been on the faculty for a number of years, didn't even know they could come up for promotion. Know that you have the right to come up for promotion if you are non-tenure track, regardless of whether it's teaching professor, clinical, professor practice, or research. Priscilla, do you want to talk any more about that, or Eric? I know that's been problematic in the past, but we're addressing it. Priscilla, do you want to?
Oh, so that's the list that I've been referring to that I'm sending out is really in reference to the teaching professors, because that's typically what we send out. As Kathleen said, we're working on addressing the research professors as well. So I'll talk a little bit more about that with her to see how we can generate that list. But our criteria for the teaching professors, which is in the non-tenure track promotion guidelines, is what she said, that you have to be in your 6th year in that particular rank, whether you're an assistant teaching professor, an associate, or an associate teaching professor. You'll have to complete 5 years first, and then in your 6th year, you can apply for promotion. We do aggregate visiting time. Let's say you were hired as a visiting assistant teaching professor for 2 years, and then you immediately went into a regular position through a search. So we would count those 2 years plus the 3 that you serve in the regular position, and then you'd be eligible to apply in the 6th year, as long as there is no break in service between the visiting appointment and the regular appointment. because that's considered continuous. If you were visiting and then you left FIU and came back maybe a year later, then the clock would start over with the new position.
So we will create that list for everybody. But in the meantime, I recommend that you be proactive. If you've been on the faculty for 6 years and whatever role, if you're full-time, non-tenure track, you have the right to come up. So you can reach out directly to Priscilla, you can reach out to your chair or me. So be proactive in the meantime, and otherwise we will try to get everybody on board. Now there's a question, what if I'm on soft money? That depends if you're fully funded, if you're partially funded, that's tricky. But if you're full-time, even in a center, you have the right to come up for promotion. We have been working with the center directors this year and to figure out how to get your raise, the salary bump you're going to get when you're promoted needs to go into your grant beforehand. So that's where you're going to talk to your director about how to make that work. But all the center directors, while some may not have been clear in the past, they know that you're in unit and they know that you have the right to come up for promotion. By the way, even if you're out of unit, and we talk a lot about the CBA, the tenure and promotion manual process applies to you whether you're in unit or not. So there's some confusion about that as well. If some of you happen to be from law or medicine, that process applies to you whether you're in unit or not. So we had a bunch more questions while I was just, let's see. I'm sorry, let's see. What are the possible ranges for salary increases? Oh, I'm gonna let Eric take that one.
What are the possible salary increases?
What are the possible ranges for salary increases?
The possible ranges. I guess I need a little more specifics on the question, but in general, okay, so I'll start with the basic, the 12% and 14%. So on your first promotion, if you're going from assistant to associate, then it's a 12% of what you're already making that gets added on to what your salary is. But if you're talking about what the ranges are from year to year, those are negotiated. And right now, it depends a lot on what the budget ends up being through the state of Florida. So I don't have good information on what those prospects are. The narrative last year during COVID is that there might not be any money at all. So we were very successful in negotiating a couple of raises in the last couple of years that got fulfilled. You may have noticed a 1% bump and a merit bump in your salary. But in this next year, it's going to depend on what the budgets are. So I don't have really good information on what that's going to be for this year.
Now, we do have, sometimes people are impacted by compression or so in some cases, if you feel that you know your salary is really not in line with your colleagues who do the same thing, that's a conversation that you have with your chair, or sometimes you can go directly to Susanna, who might be able to help you out. But otherwise, the raises are bargained. Let's see. My annual assignment has research as optional. How does that count? That's a very strange assignment to me. That doesn't make sense. There has to be a percentage indicated. It's not optional. Either it's in your assignment or it's not. And if
It
it's
sounds like it's gravy. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
yeah, that's just weird. I mean, obviously anybody can do research if they want, but if it's in your assignment, you will be evaluated on it. So I would clarify that with your chair if I were you.
I would too, because I don't like the idea of people doing work that's unpaid, and that sounds like unpaid work to me.
Yeah, no, it needs to be spelled out. So have that conversation with your, let's see, I think we answered the next couple. are we supposed to get an appointment letter each year along with the assignment letter? No, you get that letter that talks about your salary, but otherwise just assume that you will stay on, you know, that the assumption is that we will rehire you unless there's some egregious violation somehow.
Can I just touch on that question?
Sure.
So if you're on a, like was mentioned before, if you're on those continuing contracts without an end date, then you won't be getting an appointment letter every year. If you're visiting, or if you have a multi-year appointment, or maybe you're funded by a grant where you require renewal, then you'll probably get a letter every year renewing your appointment. Essentially, if you have an end date, then you would need to be renewed from year to year.
Okay. So this is a little bit confusing, and I still have to kind of in my head do the math. I thought non-tenure track went up for promotion in year 5. Well, it's actually at the end of year 5, and you will receive your promotion in year 6. Is that right, Priscilla? It's confusing.
So no, you have to complete 5 years, and then
Okay.
you go for promotion in your 6th year. Your 6th year meaning the academic year, because right now we're starting the process in the spring where you're technically still in, like most are going to be in the end of their 5th year.
And
But the
that's
promotion process will
confusion.
actually begin,
Right.
will actually be conducted through your 6th year, and then your 7th
Right.
year is when you would get the promotion.
But that's the confusion, is that you can start uploading all your things and they're due at the end of the summer.
They're due at the beginning, yeah, end of summer, early August.
Right, at the beginning of your, so the process sort of starts in year 5, but it's, the promotion happens in year 6 and is applied to year 7 with your raise. I was wondering if I had to be eligible for promotion. You are automatically eligible for a promotion if you've been in that rank for 6 years. I still don't have my assignment for 2021 uploaded in Faculty 180. My department chair said there were problems with 180 when submitting my evaluation, and go,
No.
well, I would remember. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
That is a contract violation. The union
Yes, it
doesn't
is.
care. So, and Panther 180 is operational as far as we understand. So that is actually still grievable if it's not in effect. So I would have that conversation again and get that done. And if that's not going, then I guess I should expect a phone call.
So I would suggest you also reach out to Panther 180 directly and see if you can get that resolved as quickly as possible. You can email panther180@fiu.edu.
Yes, I was going to say, sometimes it's, you know, they're not being dastardly. They really, maybe they're a new chair and they haven't figured out how to do it. Just give them the benefit of the doubt until they remove all doubt. That's what I say. But yeah, contact Panther 180 directly, maybe talk directly with your chairs. Like, look, I know that Panther 180 will help you get this done. So here's a question. If I teach composition, but collaborate with researchers and publish things in the medical field, can I still include it in my file for promotion? Absolutely. We want to encourage you to include everything you're doing. Just remember that unless it's in your annual assignment, you won't be evaluated on it. But to Eric's point, it will certainly enhance your file. And I will tell you that the provost is very supportive of interdisciplinary collaboration. So that's going to do well, bode well for you also. I think Dr. Howard mentioned some interdisciplinary work. Again, community engaged scholarship she mentioned. So look in the P&T manual where it describes what community engaged scholarship is, because that is, if you have research in your assignment, that is another way that you can do research. We talked about the salary. So those hired in fall of 2016 would be eligible. Not quite. Priscilla?
So those hired in fall 2016 as a regular, the 21-22, which is this academic year coming up, is going to be their 6th year. So yes.
Okay. Does previous adjunct work count toward TAP or 6-year requirements, or does clock only start once hired as full-time faculty? Should I include anything from years as adjunct? So that's kind of an opinion, and I think maybe Susanna should weigh in on that one too. I would say include it, but make it clear that this happened before you started as full-time faculty. Because when they're looking at your file, they're looking at your total of, as it would be, but it's going to be focused on the time that you were in rank. And there was another question about evaluation. Should I have at least 3 or 4? You should have 6. So if you don't, that's either a call to Eric after a conversation with your chair. So anybody else want to say what they think you ought to do about including prior work?
Well, I think you should include everything that is to your credit, and you'll be heaviest evaluation will be on what you did during the term that's under review. But of course, it shows for continuity, and that's really important to show what your trajectory has been. I think it's great if you have previous work to include it.
Yeah. And so I think we sort of answered this next question, but does promotion for non-tenure track faculty only involve increased distinction, responsibility, and salary, or does it somehow result in increased security? No, we're all pretty much at will. The only difference is if you're tenure track, they have a few more hoops that the administration has to jump through. But the security comes not with your promotion, but because you were promoted, it means that your colleagues think you're doing a really good job. So you shouldn't worry about your security. That would be my opinion. I think that was all the questions, unless I missed something. And if I did, maybe add it and we'll look at them.
Well, we're coming up toward the end of the session, but there is time for 1 or 2 more questions if you have them. I'd like to ask people, we sent the link to the evaluation form. If you have any comments about other material you would like to see in this session for the future, I guess you may not be back again because maybe you'll be promoted, but thank you if you take the time to fill it out.
I want to thank Susanna and her team and Priscilla and Eric for, I cannot claim any credit to the Provost Point for setting this up. So that all goes to the union and Susanna. So thank you. I want to thank, and I want to thank everyone who's here because you're taking an interest in your career and getting, I hope, some answers to your questions. It's going to be a smoother process, but please reach out to any of us because we do want to support you. We want you to succeed. That's our goal.
And thank you so much, Kathleen. I want to tell everybody we will post the webinar and we'll also post the notes from Eric online. So we'll send it out, the information out for the link for the webinar when it's ready.
Oh, and I want to thank our 2 speakers, Drs. Howard and Caraballo, for sharing your experience. And my guess is they wouldn't mind if you reached out to them as well.
I'm going to end
Good. The last question was thank you. This was helpful. So great. Good.
Thank you. I'm going to close the session now. Thank you. Or I guess Stephen has to close it.